Hello there, and welcome to The High Ground, a Doof bonus content show where we're reliving George Lucas's beloved Star Wars prequel trilogy. I'm your Jedi Master, Georgia Diebold.
I'm your Padawan, Elliot Diebold.
And I'm the youngling, Reuben Morehouse. Do younglings have a voice that they do? I don't even really know
kids.
What that is. Oh, okay, sorry. All right, my bad.
But any voice you do here, I will force you to do for the whole rest of the show. So your call.
Well, it's going to sound like this the whole time.
Okay, no, I take it back. Bluff call. So for those of you who are wondering why, fair question. Ruben and I had Georgia on Media MD about 5 months ago now, where we talked about the Clone Wars. During the recording of that episode, we found out Ruben had never seen Star Wars. And Georgia kept claiming that the Clone Wars makes these movies better. And, so since we both kind of liked Clone Wars, we figured we'd give, covering them like this a shot.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'd seen is this offensive to say, the actual Star Wars movies,
So you mean episodes 7, 8, and 9?
Oh, well, yeah, exactly. But yeah, I guess I just, I think I was slightly too old to see these, or too young, one of the two, to see these when they came out. And then, obviously I didn't hear good things. So
they very much made a comeback, I feel, in the last, maybe 5 years.
Yeah, that's weird because it's all the people who saw them when they were kids. Like it's people our age who I grew up on these films and I didn't particularly understand them or anything, but there's definitely nostalgia tied into rewatching these for me that I think we'll talk about.
Yeah, I think it's a mixture of that nostalgia and also maybe the sequel films disappointing people a bit and people feeling a bit more forgiving towards these ones.
They're not so bad after all.
Yeah. Oh, it could have been worse, actually. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. So I guess just as well, obviously Reuben is watching these for the first time. I saw them as a kid, and then I rewatched them once when I was 15. If you're in the Star Wars fandom, you've probably already heard most of what we're going to say. I guess don't expect any super new insights or hot takes. I'm pretty sure the discourse on these movies has been very thorough. We're just kind of here to have a good time.
I might have some radical new ideas.
That's true. Know. Or maybe you won't. I just don't wait. Yeah. I feel like these movies have been talked to death. So just a heads up. We may not have hot takes. Maybe we do. Let's find out.
The movie, of course, starts with a text crawl detailing the backstory of our trip to Naboo. The Trade Federation is blockading the planet, and so 2 Jedi have been sent to negotiate.
Yeah. Okay, so I just want to jump in here because... So this is a text wall, which I just, as a side note, I think it's hilarious that Star Wars has turned what I think is objectively bad filmmaking into something people want.
They've turned it into a trope somehow.
Yeah. They've somehow, I feel like people would be outraged if there was a Star Wars that didn't open with a wall of text, which is kind of crazy if you think about it. But anyway, especially because this wall of text, this is a movie, if you transport yourself to 1999 when this came out, and, it's been 16 years since the last Star Wars movie, the whole world was fucking psyched for this film. And then the film opens by talking about the taxation of trade routes in the outer rim of the galaxy. What a fucking choice that is, right?
Yeah, it's not interesting, is it? I had lost interest immediately, and it's not. I guess when I first saw it, I kind of thought, because this is my reaction to most Star Wars things nowadays, is, oh well, this is boring and a bit shit, but I'm sure it's related to some other piece of Star Wars universe, and everyone else who's a Star Wars fan is really digging it. But that can't be the case for this, right? This is just bad.
I feel like it would have been when I think about when I went to watch the sequels, and you hear that da 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 da, and you think, oh my god, and then you see the text starts to scroll, and you get really excited, and then about halfway through you'd be like, oh, cool, this is trade routes, taxes,
Yeah.
It would just be such a roller coaster, from this big high just to oh.
Well, yeah, because I can't remember any of the others too well, but I feel the original movie, episode 4, its wall of text is like, the evil empire is eradicating the rebellion. Like, that's cool backstory. This is like, yes, the Senate is debating endlessly. They're useless bureaucrats. And it's just like, it's a weird, boring part of the world building to reintroduce your audience to this world in. Where it's like, everyone's been waiting for this movie for actually decades. And it's like, yeah, the thing we've really got to hit them with at the start is the bureaucrats.
Which again, I think I don't want to compare too much. Oh, sorry, you go. Yeah, you go.
No, I was just going to say, I feel like it also just didn't help me understand what was going on.
Yeah.
Did you guys have this reaction of like, it's there to tell you what's going on, but even with it, I don't know. It just didn't help.
I don't understand how like trade route taxation works in this universe because it's never come up before.
Oh, I mean, the taxes are too damn high. That's what I admit, like, I remember being very confused by all of this as a kid. Like, when I went and saw this with my dad, when I would have been 7 or 8 when this came out. And I just remember not following the film, like, at all. Like, I sort of walked out and I was like, pod racing was cool. But I didn't really understand the plot at all. I feel like I've gotten it now, but that's with like 2 decades of extra experience of seeing the sequels and whatnot.
It is a family movie, and there's a lot in here for kids. I wonder if George Lucas thought that this is like something that adults would be like, ooh, tax.
Adults do love reading about taxation and trade federations.
Yeah.
Oh.
Is it? Have Jad and I told you the story when we went and saw episode 1? This is a complete aside.
I think so. Yeah, we went to the Alda cinema.
Oh,
There was
yeah.
no one there.
Yeah, so we went on opening day, and Dad got me to dress up and everything. And we got there 2 hours early because our cinema didn't have like assigned seats. So it was like the 9 a.m. opening day session. We got there at 7 a.m. There were 2 other people who showed up, and they also showed up at about 7:30. So it was like the 4 of us sitting there till 9. And then the cinema was just empty. It was only the 4 of us who watched the whole thing. It was like the biggest letdown.
You live in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah. But my dad hyped it up for me, like, because I was a kid, and he's like, "Yeah, we're going to dress up, and there'll be other people dressed up. It's going to be really cool." And then we went there, and it was just no one at all.
It was like Harry Potter movies went off in Armadale. They were packed. The midnight sessions would sell out like weeks before. Not a Star Wars town, apparently.
Oh, what a time. Anywho, sorry. I guess my other thing I want to talk about at the opening here. So obviously, like, we have the like our 2 mysterious Jedi show up to negotiate about these trade routes, and I thought it was funny because having come to this from Clone Wars, like with Clone Wars being the only other Star Wars I've really watched for years. In Clone Wars, like Jedi are like a dime a dozen like generals, and so it was just kind of funny how in this they're like super mysterious and they're cloaked. And I sort of realized, I guess, for the original audiences, these would have been the first ever Jedi on screen, like really. Like, Yoda and Obi-Wan and the originals probably don't count. So, it was just a funny moment of like, oh, this was probably really huge back in the day.
I do like the hoods, though.
They are
mysterious hoods. And when they take the hoods off and you're like, oh, it's Ewan McGregor.
It's Liam Neeson under that hood.
Yeah. Maybe this movie will be okay. Can Liam Neeson make hats fun?
Well, because there's a long pause after the first time Liam Neeson says, like, calm your fears, Obi-Wan. There's like a 3-second pause, which is presumably because they're expecting audiences to go, oh my God, it's Obi-Wan.
It's the applause break that you have to put in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you all notice, this is something that I didn't know about Star Wars, there's a bit where the Jedi use super speed. And I didn't know that was like a Jedi power.
We made the same comment. It's the bit where the droids with the force fields first show up, and they're like, "Oh, we need to get out of here." And it's like the Disney Plus copy is faulty or something because it looks like the Flash from CW's The Flash. The way they move out of there, it's ridiculous.
So I actually kind of came at this from the other side, where one time I was on in a Wikipedia sort of like loop and just reading all this stuff on Wikipedia. And I came across all this like stuff about how Jedi have super speed. And I was like, oh, I don't remember them ever using it though. And then I rewatched this movie kind of like it was shortly after that. And I was like, oh shit, they did it. Is this the one time? I think it's the one time they ever do it.
I assumed it was a mistake. I didn't know that was a power.
No, it's dead set. They're supposed to be able to have super speed. It's like, is this like the Tyrion Lannister doing the somersault in chapter 1 of Game of Thrones, where George R. R. Martin then was like, oh, I wish I hadn't done that. I don't want this anymore. So they just kind of just stopped doing it. I don't know.
I do wonder if it was intentional or a bad special effect that just the Star Wars fandom has rallied around and retroactively explained.
Yeah, that's true. I'm pretty sure Wikipedia is fan-made, so probably somebody's like, yes, no bad editing exists in Star Wars. They have super speed.
I love those little droids though with the force fields. Like they're in the Clone Wars.
Yeah, the destroyers.
Yeah, I can't remember if we talked about them in our, but like just a cool design. Like I remember that was one of those moments as an 8-year-old where I was like, that blew my mind. It's like, oh, you can't beat these things. They've got force fields.
Yeah.
And then, why doesn't everyone just have force fields?
Yeah, force field technology exists. And it's put to good use in this movie. There's a bit later where they repair their force fields or whatever. And it made me realize that's so strong. Why doesn't everyone just have force fields?
It's true, because they must have a pretty small battery or something, because the destroyers aren't that big. Jedi could probably carry one around. They could have a sword and a shield.
Yeah.
Our 2 Jedi, Obi-Wan Kenobi and Qui-Gon Jinn, are betrayed and attacked by the Trade Federation. They manage to escape by joining the Trade Federation's boarding party. Upon landing, they meet Jar Jar Binks.
Oh,
so
boy.
we'll get to Jar Jar. We'll get to Jar Jar in a second. I just, this is something that I thought during Clone Wars, and I'm going to bring it up here again, which is it meant to be a twist that Palpatine is the Emperor? I couldn't tell during this.
I feel like they go somewhere in between, right? Because like Ian McDermott, or however you say his last name, he was in like the final Star Wars film, Return of the Jedi. So, but he was pretty obviously makeup and like hooded and things. So like they're not trying that hard to make it a secret, but I think they're trying to keep it sort of on the DL for people who, for like kids and weren't as familiar maybe. I'm not sure.
I definitely didn't see it coming as a kid, but then I also remember I didn't understand it when it happened. Like I didn't remember who he was. So
yeah, it wasn't until I was way older that I understood the ramifications of him being the Emperor.
Well, because I only watched them as they came out, and they came out like 3 years apart. My kid brain couldn't he sort of came out, and all I knew him as was Mr. Politician Man.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you're right, Ruben. Like watching it now, it's so obviously him. Like
yes, he's clearly villainous.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think any adult is meant to be too tricked by it.
Even when he's being nice, it's like unsettling.
Yeah.
But so yeah, we meet Jar Jar.
Yeah, should we talk about the Gungan in the room?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, well, first of all, for those of you who didn't listen to the Medium Down Clone Wars, just a heads up that in this show, Darth Jar Jar is canon.
Mm.
Of course.
Because there's some crazy shit he does in this film. Also, he has a 3-part name. We've got like Obi-Wan Kenobi, Qui-Gon Jinn, and then it's like Jar Jar Binks. That's just like, it's clearly being established that he's a Force user. All our Force users have 3-part names.
Sure.
Here's another question. I feel like maybe I'm asking too many questions, but it is a very confusing movie. Jar Jar is just randomly there, right? Like, is he meant to... I couldn't remember if I heard this line clearly or not, but it sounds like he says something like, oh, I'm here to rescue you or whatever. But he's just kind of there, and then they bump into him, and then he's just like a character that they all like from then on. Is that...
I think like
was he meant to be there?
I don't think Qui-Gon
sure,
likes Jar Jar.
Tolerate, maybe.
Yeah. For some reason saves. Yeah, no, I don't think they're supposed to know him. I think Qui-Gon just tries to stop him getting crushed by that tank. And
Doesn't
stuck with him.
Doesn't Jar Jar say later in the movie when he's talking to Padme or something that he was just there, like he was just on his morning hunt or something?
Yeah, because
like he was just
out of the city, so he's just wandering around.
Well, no, I think he was just meant to be there random.
In fairness, I only understood about 40% of what he said because it is just nonsense. Which
is partly because it's like an interesting way of talking, and partly because it's just you just want to not listen to his voice. It's just so frustrating.
Actually, speaking of like, okay, speaking of voices that are difficult to listen to, but these ones perhaps for a different reason. Holy fuck, the Trade Federation.
Oh, yeah.
Like, having not watched these movies for ages, the blatant racism of the Trade Federation had completely gone over my head as a kid. And I always heard people talk about it, but I just assumed it was more subtle than it is. It's bad. What were they thinking?
Really bad. Every single time they talk, it's this like massive cringe.
Yeah,
it's so bad.
It's really hard to watch.
Mm-hmm.
I will say one good thing about Jar Jar and also all of the Trade Federation aliens is that the CGI holds up better than I expect every time I watch this film. You watch it and you think, oh, it's actually pretty decent.
It actually isn't terrible. Yeah. I was surprised by that too.
I think visually, these movies kick ass. Like not just like in how well they hold up, but just like the designs. Like I feel like I'm gonna bring this up a bunch. But I just love the aesthetic of everything in the prequels.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, especially we're about to get to a place called Otto Gunga, and that was a beautifully designed place.
All the Gungan tech, like their stuff in the battle at the end, like the little orbs they throw, their cool force field, like it all feels so tactile and like organic. It was really cool.
Like Dead set, if the Gungans were all just mute, if they couldn't speak, they would be so cool.
Yeah.
And you just
my god!
Think, they're so cool. Then they open their mouths.
Yeah.
Wait, never mind.
Yeah. Oh my god, when I saw, as they got to Otto Gunga, I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. And then they go and they talk to a character who the Wikipedia tells me his name is Boss Nass. And it's atrocious. It's
so
horrifying.
It's so bad.
Wait, so is that meant to be for kids? Is that like the logic there is kids will find it funny?
Do kids like that? Do kids?
I don't remember
Because
if
there's
I
a bit.
liked that. I don't think I liked it.
Because Jar Jar does talk about poop a fair amount, right?
Yeah,
And maybe that's the bit that's for kids.
They do a lot.
Well, he's like very slapstick too. Like I think it's meant to be like funny when he trips on like laser guns and kills droids.
Like the only thing
that is funny. That is funny. That bit.
The only thing that George Lucas is more out of touch with than women is kids. Maybe. I don't know.
What a film! What a film this is.
I mean, actually, one thing I would add that is, like you were saying, that as you go to Gunga and it's like this beautiful scene, you think it's really cool. The music in these films, like by John Williams, such a highlight. Like, and that was, we actually were watching it the other day and we were just like, wow, this music is really good. Like, as they're swimming down there, there's so many great bits of music in these films.
Yeah. But yeah, you're right. It's like brilliant aesthetics, brilliant music.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I love George Lucas. Like, he's created all of this. It's amazing. But also, like, dude. Maybe he was just, like, out of practice. I don't know.
Should we keep moving through the movie? Because I want to talk about the movie as a whole later. And maybe we should tackle the writing then.
Yeah. Jar Jar leads the Jedi to the underwater city he was exiled from for practicing his dark arts. Together, the three powerful Force users co-opt a ship from the Gungans and go through the planet's core to get to the Naboo city.
I don't know if this is the right place to bring this up. Maybe it's worth leaving it until the end. But I wasn't really sure. This movie just kind of feels off somehow, like just like the pacing of it. It just feels like you get about 90% of the way through a scene and you're kind of getting the picture of what's happening. And then it kind of simultaneously feels like it moves on too quickly and too slowly. And I'm not really sure. It just like doesn't quite connect.
There's a lot of jumping around and what feel like unresolved plot points and stuff. Definitely like lots of jumping around. Like what do we start with Naboo, then we go to Tatooine, then we go to the city planet. Yeah, and then back to Naboo. Is that all? It felt like more than that.
It's interesting because I guess as somebody who's seen the movie like a few times, I don't really notice that anymore, right? Because I don't know, I kind of understand what's going on. But now that you pointed out, I think, yeah, there are some bits where like it gets pretty slow and then, you sort of like tune out a little and then you've missed now 3 steps because there's like a really quick parts going past.
Yeah.
It's like, oh shit, where are we now? Which planet are we on? I think it's just those 3 planets.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe that's what it was. It just, sometimes it just gets so like it slows down so much, and then you look away for a second, and you've missed like 2 plot points.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, because I suppose if you think about like Tatooine, and I am jumping ahead here for sure, like they do so much there, like all the stuff happens with Anakin and the pod race or whatever, and it's like there's probably about 2 minutes between the pod race ending and them being on Coruscant, because it's just like all wraps up super quickly. Like they sort of set all this stuff up, and then it's just like, and that's all done, and now we're moving to Coruscant, and the Tatooine. Maybe it feels so disjointed as well because the Tatooine stuff doesn't really have anything to do with the rest of it, but it's like a huge chunk of the middle of the movie. Like, because we start on
and
Naboo.
I think it's just the best bit. Like, it's the most human and grounded part, right?
It absolutely is.
It's very strange.
But it's like, we start on Naboo, and then we cut to Tatooine, and a bunch of completely unrelated stuff happens. Like, it focuses on all the different characters. Then we go to Coruscant, and the focus sort of shifts back to them, and then it mostly shifts to the Jedi Council, and then we head back to Naboo, and then it's sort of just spread through everyone. Like, there's just characters are coming in and out of the film. It's maybe just too busy.
Well, because it's kind of 2 stories. There's the Naboo plot, where you've got the Trade Federation has unlawfully taken over Naboo, which is like the start and the end of the movie, and then the whole middle bit is Anakin's origin story. So by the time it gets to the end, you're like, oh, I forgot about Naboo. Like,
yeah. I think it was trying to cram too many different stories in.
Again, I'd not really looked at it that way because I'm just so used to it. It's interesting. Like, think about how it seems from a first time.
Also, what's the relationship between the Gungans and the people of Naboo? And I don't mean like, I know that they had like not at war, but they didn't like each other or whatever. But so the Naboo people, they can't have evolved on this planet. Like, they're colonists, right? Because they're humans.
And the humans are everywhere in this, which is never established. I mean, I know I'm supposed to be the expert, but now I'm about to sit here and be like, I don't know. Because, yeah, I'm confused about, I mean, maybe there is some really, like, hardcore Star Wars lore on this that I just don't know about. But there's sort of, humans are kind of all over the place, but then there's all these planets with, like, set races. So I don't know whether it is, like, a colonial thing. But it's also confusing because, like you said, it's well established that the Naboo and the Gungans sort of don't particularly get along, but they also have not really been at war. So why do the Gungans have this huge, really skilled army? Because, you know, Jar Jar even says, he's like, oh, we've got this really big army, and that's probably why you don't like us. Why do they have it, and who've they been fighting?
Well, but they live in underwater hidden cities. Like, yeah. I have to feel that they had their land taken from them by the Naboo.
I guess, because all of their warfare sort of technology they use on the droids is like for land warfare, and they have these like sort of horse-ish things that they're riding which don't look like they come from the water. So you do wonder if it's just been like these amphibious creatures have just been banished to the bloody lakes.
Well, and because the like horsey things they ride kind of resemble them. Like, they kind of look like they're from the same planet, whereas the Naboo are just a bunch of humans. Yeah. So
their underwater cities aren't. I mean, they're like in oxygen pockets, right?
Yeah, they don't live underwater.
They're not aquatic. They live. So clearly there's a horrifying history here of, I'm assuming that the Gungans building up a resistance force and being mere days away from, you know, attacking the surface and taking back Naboo before suddenly being like, oh no, we'll help you, I guess. They've been training for years to take back Naboo, and just by coincidence, this plot kicked off at the same time.
Well, not by coincidence, because Palpatine set it up. He did this. It turns out the whole Empire was just to quell a Gungan rebellion.
It was Jar Jar's
I could see
agenda.
Yeah. I'm trying to think, because the Gungans are in Clone Wars, and I can't remember if they actually live in Naboo now or not, or if they're still relegated to their underground cities. They're definitely more a part of the planet's culture.
Yeah, I can't remember.
I don't know.
See, this might be a hot take. I don't know.
We found one.
Yeah, we did it.
Quick to the Reddit.
Cool aquatic monsters, though. I like it. They look cool. They're the monsters when they're kind of going through that evil underwater area, and there's like a little fish and then a big fish and a giant eel and whatever. I like that. They looked very cool.
Yeah, I do. It's funny. That was a great example of how your memory can distort over time. I remember that scene being longer than the pod pod racing. It's not. Because
It's very short.
I remember them being chased by this giant fish for a very long time, and then this other bigger fish came out and like, blew my mind. And because that scene was important to me, it like grew in importance and length in the movie in my brain. And so I was kind of shocked when I watched it last week, and it was like, wait, this isn't like a 5-minute long chase scene. This is just it's over already. Like what?
Got to make more time for Boss Nass to talk.
You're really nailing these impressions, Elliot.
I don't know if that's a compliment.
Yeah. All my least favorite
Me
characters
neither.
are perfectly portrayed by you.
Yeah, you really nail annoying voices that really piss people off, Elliot. So thumbs up to that.
I choose not to read into this.
Nobody's done a Jar Jar impression yet. This is for the best.
Yeah, no, I'm
I think
I'm
we
gonna just
shouldn't.
leave that there.
Yeah.
Alright. Our heroes rescue Queen Padme, but in the daring rescue, their ship is damaged. They are forced to stop for repairs on the small planet of Tatooine. So, a fun fact here that Elliot certainly didn't know is that Keira Knightley actually plays Padme's sort of double decoy handmaiden.
Right?
So yeah, like I think neither of them were
That's
famous
cool.
at this point, obviously. So I think it's sort of the first thing either of them were in. But yeah, I don't know if this is true, but there's like a fan myth that they looked so similar when they were in costume that their own mums couldn't tell them apart, which is
That's
pretty
wild,
believable because they look very similar. When you actually now think of both of their faces, they look very similar.
Yeah.
Especially in all the white
And that's-
makeup.
It's so funny as well because I was watching and I saw the actual Padme and I was like, oh, well, that's clearly the real Padme because it's Natalie Portman. Like, she's famous. There's no way she wouldn't be the main character. I didn't even
but Keira
notice that the
Knightley's-
fake one was Keira
Yeah,
Knightley.
exactly. Because I don't know if you ever see Keira Knightley not in the full makeup. I don't think she's ever not in the full makeup.
I mean, it wasn't until after I watched it that you were like, oh, isn't it cool that was Keira Knightley? And I was like, what?
Because keep an eye, I'm pretty sure she's in the
Yeah,
next
I
film
did
as
not
well.
know until this moment.
Again, I haven't checked this yet, but I'm pretty sure she's in the next film too. Keep an eye out.
Okay. Well, we'll be back next month to discuss episode 2, so.
Yeah. Teaser. I want to touch on the droids as well. The battle droids, the I guess Federation droids. They're so dumb. I wonder the tone of them again feels like, oh, this is the kids movie stuff, right? And they grew on me a lot in Clone Wars, but in this it really just struck me again how ridiculous these droids are and how bad as an army they are.
Like, who programmed and designed these droids? They did a terrible job. They must be very cheap.
Yeah, I think that's
Or
meant
maybe
to be
they're
the
not-
point. Like, they're a quantity over quality enforcement operation.
Yeah.
Or they're just not meant to be battle droids. Like, they're meant to be janitorial staff, and this is just what the Trade Federation has to work with.
I will say that I find the droid humor is sort of, you get a good chuckle from it as opposed to like Jar Jar's slapstick. I could have done with more droid. That's a kid's humor I can get behind. Droids, I love the droids.
Yeah, I don't know
They
if
are
it's from
very
Clone
wholesome.
Wars or not, but I enjoyed them a lot, you know? Like, and I love them in Clone Wars, so maybe it's just like I'm bringing that energy with me into this.
Yeah,
I didn't mind them.
They didn't do much in this film.
No,
They sort of come in a bit more, obviously, when the war starts.
the Clone War.
Yeah,
That's what they call
the
it.
war. You know, like the Great War. This is what the Great War means, isn't it?
Oh yeah. Also, Georgie, you talked about that part where like their shield gets damaged as they're escaping Naboo. Because that's obviously also like our big introduction to R2D2, like, and that he's going to be in these movies.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't understand this introduction because they make it out like he's some genius war hero robot, but really he's just the only one that was lucky enough not to get shot. Wait, what?
Or he dodged? Did he dodge?
I don't think
bullets?
he did.
I think he just
No,
Yeah.
he just went into the right position and like moved some gizmos. Like I don't.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Could he see the future? Is that a thing?
I think I talked about this in our Clone Wars, or maybe it was just on the Discord at one point. But like, I'm pretty sure R2D2 is a Force user. Not to turn this into the everyone is secretly a Force user podcast, although
But
maybe.
everybody.
But like R2D2 just always pulls bullshit out of left field, which is to just such an extent that I'm like, maybe he is or it is. What pronouns do you use for R2D2?
Yeah, I don't know. Does R2D2 have a gender? Probably not, because he doesn't procreate. But I think he's sort of supposed to be a bit clever, because they do make some sort of comment like, oh, he bypassed the main power core or something. So I think he's supposed to have done something clever that the droids didn't think of and did it quickly. But I think the thing about him not getting hit by the lasers, I think that's just luck.
Yeah, but then there's, because it's like, show don't tell. And like, I didn't get anything out of the show part of that, because he just like, he just sticks his prong in and zaps it a bunch. And then it's like, he fixed it. And then they sort of have to be like, oh, R2D2 like saved us all. And it's like, well, instead of like, you didn't just do the tell not show, which is the mistake that lots of people make. You also showed it. It just didn't work.
You didn't really show anything.
You still did the show. It's just not clear. I don't know. They could have like, even if they had a line halfway through where it was like, like one droid can't do that, and then like R2 pulled out like his second prong or something. I don't know. Yeah,
it was a bit of just a lazy R2 introduction, I feel. I think it's like Jar Jar 2. This is just some random droid they came across.
Well, for now.
I don't think there's anything more to it. Yeah, for now. Yeah, I think that the special thing about R2 later is supposed to be that Anakin refuses to ever wipe his memory, so he actually develops a personality and things.
I remember that episode of Clone Wars. That was a good one.
Yeah. Here, I think he's just some random droid.
Not dignified.
On Tatooine, the Jedi discover a young Anakin Skywalker working for a guy who has the hyperdrive they need but cannot afford. So Qui-Gon risks everything on this 10-year-old that says he can totes win a race despite never having finished one. And it works out.
Works out very well. He wins the race. It's a long race sequence.
Honestly, I would have happily seen it go twice as long and cut so many other parts of the movie. The pod racing is so friggin' cool.
It is cool, isn't it? Here's a weird thing about this, though. It's so... I mean, they introduce, mini-chlorians and stuff, and it turns this whole thing... it's all prophecies and stuff now, right? Was that always part of Star Wars? I don't really remember it from the original movies.
Yeah, it wasn't, and it was really unpopular in the fan base and stuff at the time. The idea that, certain people had these midichlorians, I think, well, my interpretation is because it just takes away all of the sort of mystery and magic from the Force and turns it into this sort of quantifiable thing that certain people are born with rather than something that people can achieve.
Well, no, because you see, the thing is, at the moment, Star Wars was half sci-fi, half fantasy, and that's an abomination. You have to pick one genre. It can't be two. And so what they're doing here is firmly planting their flag in sci-fi. It's a good decision.
In very Christian sci-fi.
Yeah,
right?
This is a blatant,
it's very religious,
it's
overtones.
Religious.
It just feels like the whole Shmi having a virgin birth of Anakin just feels to me like...
Sorry, wait, hold the phone. Anakin's mother is Shmi?
Yeah.
Isn't that the character from Captain Hook? I mean, from Peter Pan, Captain Hook's second in command.
I don't know.
Don't know.
Why is she called Shmi? That's such a silly name, even by Star Wars.
Star Wars is full of silly names.
Oh god. Sorry.
No, you're right. It is worth calling out.
How do you spell that?
SCHMI, I believe.
Maybe just SHMI.
Oh, maybe.
Shmi Skywalker Lars. There you go.
Anyway, her having a virgin birth to me just feels like again, it just feels like a cheap way to quickly establish the Chosen One as being serious business, because it's it's the same as the Messiah from the biggest religion.
It's so unnecessary. It could have easily been left out. It just it's so weird.
I don't mind the Chosen One aspect, because I think prophecies and stories can work if you subvert them, which in a way Star Wars kind of does, because it's Anakin's going to balance the Force, and it's we know he doesn't. or he kind of does, but he
in a very roundabout way.
he makes everyone work for it.
Very not ideal way.
It's the mitochondria that are silly to me because it's like
Powerhouse of force.
Yeah, the mitochondria are the powerhouse of force. I think I think what they added like because they wanted a way to say Anakin's special and he's the most powerfulest Jedi.
Show don't tell again.
Well, yeah, exactly. But the thing is they needed to introduce a way to quantify how powerful Jedi are.
Yeah,
and I was like,
power level has to be off the charts, otherwise why bother?
Yeah, but
putting
you could have done that with a special Jedi rock that Jedi carry with them, and other Force users can shake it. And then it was oh my god, Anakin shook it more than anyone's ever shook it before. You know what I mean?
Do you know what they could have done? They could have had this thing that he's really good at, pod racing.
Yeah.
They already did it. He was an amazing pod racer. He's 5 or whatever. I think that would have been a pretty good place to. They could have just honed in on that maybe instead of the midichlorian thing.
Well, I think they want a way to say it he's better than Yoda. He's better than everyone else.
Yeah.
So, then you'd need to introduce, Yoda used to pod race as an arc, which I could totally get behind.
I could get behind a race between Yoda. We will let you into the order if you can defeat Grandmaster Yoda in a pod race.
Yeah.
Great.
Only Yoda's been able to beat that time trial before.
That would have been so good.
I love how we're improving Star Wars by turning it into an anime.
Yeah, it's got to be a sports anime. That's what it really needed to be.
This is another hot take, I think.
Pod racing Yoda.
2 hot takes. Yeah. Oh, God.
Pod racing. It's cool, though. It's good.
It is.
Yeah,
nice.
I love the design of them. It so sells that they're these flimsy things and how dangerous it is because they're literally held together by cords and electricity beams or whatever.
Yeah. They're like chariots, right? Where you've got a little
Yeah.
chariot bit and then 2 horses, but it's space chariots. And that's great because obviously chariot races are very dangerous and kind of get this vibe of oh shit, these things are clearly duct taped together.
Yeah, I think it really sells the sort of intensity of the scene with how flimsy they were because they're bobbling around as you go. As you said, yeah, it's like chariots. It feels like they could just smash apart any minute, and a lot of them do.
And there's kind of that idea that it's not supposed to be a violent thing, but they're all just so cowboy that it just turns up people just crash all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and sometimes people are just on the track shooting at them, and that's apparently just a normal thing that happens in this sport.
Don't worry, Anakin will get him. He gets his revenge on those.
He gets his revenge on them.
He does.
I mean, yeah. Didn't they just re-release the pod racing game for Nintendo Switch? It was on the Nintendo 64, and they re-released it on Nintendo Switch. Have I made that up?
I don't know.
I have no idea.
I feel like I want to get that now. I actually really enjoyed the pod racing. And I want to play as Saboba.
These impressions, Jesus Christ.
Another impression we're not going to do is Watto.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's set up all the impressions we aren't going to do. And the audience can just imagine them.
No, Watto...
We're not doing the racist ones.
Watto can sit in the corner with the Trade Federation.
China's not racist, he's just annoying. I don't know, is he racist? I don't know. Is it racist to assign him to a race?
Yeah,
that's the most offensive thing.
Yeah. It's certainly not any stereotypes I'm familiar with.
No.
It's honestly very stereotypically and racist Gungan stereotype. So I'm disgusted that it's in this film. Here's something that I caught. During the pod racing, one of the 2-headed announcer people, whatever, says a line. They say, "I don't care what universe you're from, that's gotta hurt." Which is such a weird line because it implies that people can be from different universes. Is there a parallel dimension stuff in Star Wars?
I feel like no. I think it's somebody who's just space words.
No, I'm sorry. Once it's in the movie, Georgia, it becomes canon.
Yeah, it's canon.
Well, maybe that wasn't a two-headed guy. Maybe they're each from different universes. Like that's the same guy from two universes, and their machine to move between universes malfunctioned.
There's some kind of monstrous smooshing between of two.
Like that guy turns into the Fly in that movie that's referenced in The Simpsons that time.
Oh yeah,
it's just called The Fly.
Is it?
You were most of the way there. You could have just brought it home.
Included so much color around the actual title.
I have no idea what movie you're talking about, but I know the exact Simpsons episode.
And isn't that the way that modern pop culture functions anyway?
The Simpsons has carried me through a lot of conversations on movies I haven't seen.
Like, remember the part where Homer says this?
So also, okay, I hate to drag Liam Neeson through the mud here, but he frees Anakin, and just like he says to Anakin, "Oh, sorry, we couldn't free your mother. I tried." He didn't try very hard. I feel like he could clearly, what's his face didn't really care about having Anakin's mother as a slave, and I don't know. I feel like Liam Neeson probably could have done a bit better in that negotiation.
Yeah, this is like definitely one of my pet hates with this film. The idea that the whole film, Qui-Gon Jinn just like validates slavery because he literally gambles for Anakin, and then it's like, oh, so sorry, Shmi, you have to stay here because like Watto owns you. Like, no, she's a person. You're a Jedi, so you don't believe in slavery. If she wants to go with you, just like let her go. You're not
what's going to happen?
From Watto because she's a human being.
Also, even if you are, like, Watto's going to dob on you to the Hutts, and one of the Hutts are like, oh yeah, sure, we'll just take on the Jedi Order. Like,
yeah,
I don't
for this one slave lady. Like, no, probably not.
Yeah, there's also a scene where Watto clearly is quite scared of involving the Hutts, right? Because Watto goes, "Oh, I'm going to go to the Hutts." And Liam Neeson calls his bluff on it, and Watto backs down immediately. So clearly, they don't have a positive relationship.
Yeah. Also, like, if Qui-Gon wanted to, he could just like kill Watto, and probably pretty much anyone else on Tatooine. I'm sure he could probably handle them.
No, it's more ethical to like brainwash,
gamble on to
gamble on slaves and brainwash people than it is to kill them.
The Jedi mind tricks, they're a bit uncomfortable, aren't they? Like the Jedi are sort of mostly quite like moral and very like hard and fast in their morals and like very like virtue ethics based, and then they just happily sort of brainwash only the weak-minded, which as though that makes it okay.
Ugh.
It's like, oh, is that maybe even worse? I don't know.
That was sort of why we settled on the name The High Ground, because I remember that was sort of the theme of our Media MD Clone Wars episode, is we just shout on the morality of the Jedi Order.
I mean, they are terrible, in fairness.
So I think we should have this discussion, because that, like, well, actually, to be fair, the reason this is called The High Ground is because now this is podcasting was already taken. But I did like The High Ground. Oh, that would have
been so good.
Those bastards.
Just because I wanted to talk about how shit the Jedi Order is. I think we'll have even more to do with that in the later films. But yeah, you're right. Like, Qui-Gon shows so little interest in fighting slavery. And then you think about the Jedi Order, like, shouldn't they be doing more to combat slavery? Like, now they know that there's slaves on Tatooine. Are they going to do anything about it?
So I think it's very much that thing, like we kind of already talked about this in our Clone Wars episode. But yeah, the Jedi kind of, I don't know. It's like he gets there and he's just like, oh, this is the Outer Rim. Things are just crap out here. So, like, who cares? But then even later in Clone Wars, you find out that people live exactly like that, even on Coruscant, just in the lower levels where the Jedi don't go to.
So they're just shit. Like,
they
just
don't care about being privileged, I guess. I don't know.
What is their job even? They're basically just ambassadors, right? Like, are they meant to be a police force? I didn't really get a clear picture of it.
So they're supposed to be peacekeepers. So the idea is, that they're essentially like supposed to be sort of like police, which is why the idea of them just being like, slavery is like so concerning.
Yeah.
But I think the idea is supposed to be that they've become more like, like ambassadors and politicians in recent-ish times, and that's sort of what kind of leads to their downfall, is that they're not really doing it properly anymore.
Yeah, okay, maybe they'll touch on that more later. Or, I don't know. I totally agree with you, Reuben, that like so much of what Qui-Gon does here, like the fact that he gambled for slaves, like the fact that he doesn't seem interested in combating slavery much.
He says openly 3 times, like, "Oh, I didn't come here to free slaves."
Yeah,
you could do it.
Yeah,
if you wanted to.
Yeah.
You didn't come. We didn't want to come here at all. Like,
Yeah. He's just like, "Oh, I just want to get my ship part and just get out of here."
Well, then he like, very benevolently frees Anakin because he's like a Force user and can join the Jedi. Like, we will free you and let you into our elite class.
I mean, this is my other potentially hot take, is that you do have to wonder if Qui-Gon deliberately, doesn't free Shmi because he wants Anakin to join the Jedi, and he can't really do that if he takes
I got
Shmi
a
with
bit
him.
of that vibe.
Yeah.
It felt very insidious. Like, don't worry, I'll take care of you, Anakin.
Yeah, like, I've freed you, and sorry, Mum can't come. You can't be there anymore, so you better just join the Jedi Order.
Because the Jedi, you're not allowed to be in contact with your family when you join, right?
No. I'm also not sure if, and there's kind of, Anakin sort of says to Qui-Gon, like, when they first meet, like, "Oh, I had a dream once that I was a Jedi, and I came back and I freed all the slaves." And it's like, "Hey, Anakin, do you want to be a Jedi?" And he's like, "Yes." And it's kind of, I would think, implied that Anakin thinks that part of that deal will be to come back and free the slaves one day, but then, that never happens. And that's actually apparently not what Jedi are for.
It's the antithesis of what they're for, apparently.
But Liam Neeson's just like, "Yes, come along." Not going to talk about that.
Yeah, I guess I'll say I actually don't really remember what Anakin does in Episode 2 and the first half of Episode 3. Like, I only know where he ends up at the end of Episode 3. So I'm actually really curious to see what he does. Because I obviously know where he is in Clone Wars, but yeah, very interested to sort of see what he does as a young Jedi.
Okay. With Anakin joining the crew, everyone is able to make it to Coruscant, the capital of the galaxy. This is a big city where people don't like to do things. The Jedi Council says no to training Anakin on account of his propensity to become Darth Vader. The Republic decides not to really hurry about saving the people of Naboo, so Padme kicks off a vote of no confidence and then just bails anyway.
Yeah, good stuff, Padme.
That was actually, I like that scene. I really like the design of the Senate and how it just is all, it's just this huge room just full of people, and it's so sort of intimidating and like bureaucratic looking.
Yeah. I think it sells the bureaucracy because there's so, the impression you get is that there's just so many of these things, and it's like, how can anything get done when there's so many?
Yeah, 100%.
It immediately is so, like, obviously impractical. I think you're right.
And I do like that particular scene where Padme addresses the Senate, because she's just like this young girl in this, like, in all of her traditional kind of clothing, just speaking to all of these, like, bureaucrats and fuddy-duddies, and then she just surprises them with this, like, ace political move that Palps has given her, and the Chancellor's face is just like, "Oh, shit."
I mean, yeah, but they walked into it. Actually, can we talk about Padme and her thing for a sec? Because I wanted to bring this up. So, okay, she was elected queen. That's fine. I can look past the abuse of the term queen. She doesn't know anything about politics. That comes up multiple times. How did she get elected?
Was she elected?
Yeah,
how was she elected?
Like, she doesn't know anything. Like, wouldn't they be electing someone who knows what's going on in the galaxy? Like, Palpatine has to explain everything to her.
Yeah, so I've totally looked this up. There's also a book series all about Padme, which is apparently quite good, but I haven't gotten around to reading it yet. But basically, the Naboo have like a political system where they vote in kings and queens, and they like electing young women in particular because they feel like they have this, like, sort of innocent way of looking at the world that that adults sort of don't have, which it looks past the fact that that's because they're naive.
Yeah, well, I mean, that just sets them up to be manipulated by Palpatines. Like,
yeah. And Padme actually kind of says something like about this at the start of the next film. She's kind of like, "Yeah, I feel like I was a little bit too young to be queen." She does a surprisingly good job, though. Yeah, I think Palp says early in this film, like, "Oh yeah, she'll be like really easy to manipulate." But she Oh, I don't know. Does he move? Oh, she's sort of surprised. I mean, she does a few aggressive moves that he doesn't really anticipate. And I think the idea is supposed to be that she turns out to be much more badass than he thought.
I mean, yeah, sure, but like, just how do you end up with a system where you regularly elect like anyone under the age of 20 to be like, you know, your sole ruler? That's insane.
Because I mean, they do show her with this big council then of like just older people. So why not just be led by a council? I'm not entirely sure why you bother having a queen.
Put a young person on the council if you want.
Yeah.
Don't put them in charge. Okay.
It is a weird choice.
I think the reason is because George Lucas wanted Padme to be a queen and wear cool dresses.
The dresses are cool. The fashion in this movie is great.
Oh, Padme in particular, the whole trilogy, like her outfits. Oh, there was like this big thread on Reddit semi-recently about all of her outfits and how a bunch of them were like hand crocheted with all this like beautiful embroidery and like pearls and things embroidered. Like the costume design was just really, really in depth for Padme, and her hairstyles and everything. Some of them were wigs, obviously, but some of the scenes she's just got like beautiful hair.
And let's not look past Obi-Wan's like braid.
The Padawan braid.
Oh, is that the standard Padawan hairstyle?
Anakin had it at the end of the movie as well.
All Padawans have it. So in Clone Wars, Ahsoka has that little trail of beads on the back of her sort of her big like head thingos, and that's because she doesn't have hair. That's her little like Padawan braid.
Oh, so it's actually like a uniform.
Yeah, all Padawans have that.
Oh.
They have to have like a little braid.
I just thought Obi-Wan enforced his shit styling on Anakin.
No.
I didn't realize the Jedi enforces its shit styling on everyone.
What I need to see is what Dooku looked like with a little Padawan braid.
What did Yoda look like with a Padawan braid? That's what I want to know.
Well,
actually, we'll get to something on that topic.
What? Okay. That's horrifying. That's a horrifying teaser.
It's so good. All right, next bit.
Yeah.
The gang all heads back to Naboo where they find Jar Jar's in hiding. Apparently accepting that relegation to underground cities is preferable to being on the run, the Jar Jars decide to team up and everyone goes to fight the droid army.
Sorry, I wrote that bit and nobody rewrote it. I forgot the word Gungans, so I just called them Jar Jars.
I thought it worked.
Okay, yeah.
So, something that happens a lot in this movie is they'll set up something important that's going to take place, and then the scene will transition, and then in the next scene will be people being like, oh, well, that was important, that thing that just happened. It happens like 5 or 6 times where we miss the actual action, but then we get a scene of 2 characters discussing the action that just took place. It's so weird.
I mean, it's probably a sin that the film commits right from the start, you know? Like, it starts with narration, with the text scroll.
Yeah.
It's not even, they haven't even bothered to do, like, a voiceover. Anytime a film starts with somebody doing, like, a talk over narration, I cringe. Like, I hate it. And, yeah, this movie kind of starts with that, and then just, the whole way through there is a lot of people just explaining things instead of showing.
I think there's just too many moving parts in this film, and so that like I wonder if there was like an original script that was just way longer, and then they realized it was going to be like a 4-hour movie, so they just had to start relegating parts of it to people saying stuff happen.
Yeah.
It definitely does feel though, like you said, Reuben, the scenes that we do get to see are the ones where everyone's standing around talking about the stuff that did happen.
Yeah, they're like political implications of the exciting action scene that we didn't get to see.
I would have much rather seen a bunch of things that they just do off screen than that, 10-minute part where Qui-Gon talks to Anakin about midichlorians. It goes for longer than I remember. I think we were having a conversation during it, and I looked up and I was like, he's still talking about midichlorians. No one cares.
Yeah, let's just stop to take a quick blood test of one of our characters. That'll be thrilling.
Well, no, actually, again, to talk about like Qui-Gon's, very strict and upstanding ethical code, he steals that blood from Anakin.
Oh,
yes, he does.
Also, where did that cut come from? Did Qui-Gon
there's
be
no.
like, we don't drop some glass on your arm?
Yeah.
Like, how did he
we don't see Anakin get the cut. It's just we suddenly transition from Anakin being fine to like Qui-Gon like nursing his cut, and then he like steals the blood.
It was really weird.
And it's like, okay, so did Qui-Gon cut Anakin between scenes?
Pushed you down the stairs or something. Oh no, let me help you.
Just a quick force push down the stairs. That'll take care of it.
Oh, you tripped. Just no reason. Yeah.
Don't worry. Luckily, Darth Maul's about to show up and save the day.
Maul shows up and has an epic duel against Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon. He even draws on his KDR. He draws even on his KDR. What does that mean?
His kill-death ratio.
Oh.
Yeah, if you don't know what it means, I told you this is the second time I'm having to deal with this in a week. If you people don't know what I'm writing, then rewrite it. I gave you the time.
I skipped the black man.
Well, then that's your own fault.
Okay, should I say it one more time?
No, it's fine now because this rant is too long for me to bother cutting. So this is all going to be in there now.
So yeah, they have this duel, which of course wanders through the random terrain that's clearly just been shoveled into this space station. For some reason, they just have a room where force fields turn on and off arbitrarily, which I'm assuming is integral to the engine functioning.
It's there to look cool. Like, yeah, like it absolutely. Like, there's so much about this room that doesn't seem to have a functional purpose. Like, these walkways don't have handrails. Like, put a fucking fence on the side of these passages over a giant chasm. But it looks fucking sick.
Again, as somebody who's seen the movie a few times, Elliot kind of mentioned this, and I looked and thought, where are we? I didn't talk about it. Where the hell is this? Why are we here?
Because the rest of the Naboo civilization that we see is this very like Greco-Roman, like ancient Greco-Roman architecture and stuff. This is like, if this is powering something, it's powering something fucking big.
Yeah. Is it the whole city maybe? I don't know. Is this just the power sort of, company's power station? I don't know.
It really doesn't make sense, does it? Yeah. What is this underground area?
But it's cool. Like, it's a great setting for a fight. Like, I'm willing to give them this because it's just like, look, whatever. Like, force fields that turn on and off makes no sense for a machine. But God, it's like cool for the dramatic effect of this fight where like Obi-Wan gets locked out, or the moment where all three of them are locked in, and like Maul's like fucking crawling like a prey, like a tiger or something, and then Qui-Gon fucking sits down and has a nap. It's great.
It's so cool. Yeah, I can't imagine why that would be needed, possibly, but man, it's cool. And I mean, the best part of this fight is the soundtrack, of course.
Yeah.
Epic song, very good.
Yeah, and then Qui-Gon is killed, and this affected me more than I expected it to, given that he was, the main character of this movie, right? Like, just kind of dies, and you're like, oh shit, I didn't expect this to happen. It's
kind of clever too, because we know that from the original trilogy that Obi-Wan is Anakin's master, so. You kind of know that that's going to happen, but we've never really heard of Qui-Gon, and we know that all the Jedi did in the original trilogy, so you don't necessarily know that he's going to die. Like, for all, he's, like you said, he's the main character. I think probably, I don't know what you thought, Reuben, but I would have thought as a first-time watcher that he was probably going to be in the next 3 films, but
yeah, I definitely have that thought. Yeah.
Yeah. And even though he's like kind of got the whole pro-slavery thing, it's still sad. It's still sad. I still mourn for Qui-Gon.
Well, especially because he was killed by someone who I think is probably even more pro-slavery than he was.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's clearly been the, like, heart and charisma of the story up until this point. Yeah. And he just dies, and you're like, oh, no.
He's the one character who's been in the whole movie so far. Because, like, he was on Naboo. And then for Tatooine, they put Obi-Wan, like Obi-Wan's just not in the movie for like half an hour. Qui-Gon is the only person who's in this whole movie, which is why you said he was the main character, and we were both just like, yeah, he is, because he's the only one who's there for the whole film.
Yeah, Obi-Wan does very little in this movie, before he kills Maul. The only thing he does is deliver that sick line about everybody else being pathetic life forms.
Got him. Fucking suck it, Jar Jar. Weird fight scenes. The Jedi, I don't know what it is about the fight scenes with the Jedi, but they're just, I find it very hard to get a grasp on who's winning a fight, because it will just like, they'll kind of be, locking lightsabers, and then suddenly one of them will just kind of not react to something, or like a character will do something and the other character will be like, whoa, what are they doing? When it's just like exactly what they've been doing the whole time. It just suddenly is surprising and hard to react to.
I also feel like they underuse force pushes. Like Darth Maul does this one fucking sick move where when he's backing up into the force field area, he like gets a bit of rubble and he flicks it and like breaks the door mechanism, and that opens the door. And that's like the coolest part of the fight to me. It's just like using the terrain with the force like that. I think there's like two other moments where people force push each other off chasms, and then they don't take fall damage or whatever, and those are pretty cool too. But it's just amazing how much they rely on like getting up close and whacking swords at each other for people with like psychic powers.
I guess my headcanon is just that maybe it takes like a lot of concentration and maybe a lot of energy or something to do those things, so you have to use it sparingly. And in terms of how sometimes they seem, the whole point is that you're supposed to be able to kind of know what's about to happen as a Jedi. And that's why their reactions are really fast, like Qui-Gon says to Shmi. But maybe you kind of have to be concentrating to do that all the time. So, or if you get distracted, then maybe you kind of aren't listening to your midichlorians or something. And so
or maybe you
that's
use
why
them
they
up.
sometimes don't.
Like maybe the maybe the mitochondria get upset if you use them too much for that.
If you overuse them.
Yeah, maybe you can run out of mitochondria.
Or they just like
that.
They need to be. Oh, sorry, I just realized this joke isn't going to really work in this context. I was going to say maybe it upsets them. Like they find that boring. They like the sword fights. Like you need to appease the mitochondria for it to work.
I don't get it.
It's a Pact reference that just isn't. Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, it doesn't really work.
No,
but good try.
I should have just stopped when I started hesitating. Anyway,
yeah, good fight. Yeah,
I don't understand the bit where Obi-Wan wins.
I think Maul got distracted and stopped listening to his midichlorians. I don't know.
Right,
just because like Obi's hanging there, and then he like blatantly looks at Qui-Gon's lightsaber, then looks at Darth Maul and flings himself up. Jumps like over Darth Maul, and Darth Maul just sort of turns around. And there's even a bit as Obi-Wan starts jumping where we get like a 2-second cut of Maul just sort of staring at him like, what's going on?
Yeah, we get the reaction shot of Darth Maul being like, oh, he's up to something.
Yeah.
I better get ready. But then he just doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
I forgot to get ready. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, and like Obi-Wan pulls off a full like 3-second maneuver without being challenged. In fact, Maul's even kind enough to turn around and make it like more dramatic when he chops him in half. Like it, yeah. I don't know. It's a cool moment. I feel like I'm just nitpicking, I guess here. But it's just wild that Maul just kind of gives up after he kind of has Obi-Wan on the ropes.
On the low.
Yeah, yeah. Obi did not have the high ground,
and therefore should not have won the battle.
Anakin kind of accidentally wins the whole battle by doing a whoopsie and flying inside the enemy space station and blowing it up.
Good work, Anakin.
Yeah, the fact that Anakin is even here was so bonkers to me. Like, again, I feel like we're just going to keep hating on Qui-Gon, but like, why did he bring Anakin to this war, to the front lines of this war?
So you actually asked me this while we were watching it, and I think I said, oh, no, I'm pretty sure Anakin sneaks in, and he didn't. And I was like, oh, well, no, never mind, I just had that all wrong. It just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, Qui-Gon brings him, and he's like, now, be careful, 8-year-old child.
Yeah, he brings him into this war zone and spends the whole time being like, don't do anything dangerous. Like, take cover, Anakin. Don't move. Why did you bring him?
It is worth it just for the bit where Anakin gets to pull his bullshit of like, he told me to stay in the cockpit. I'm going to stay in the cockpit.
What a great time. Yeah, classic.
There's one bit that I actually found funny in this film where he blows something up and then the kid just goes, whoops.
Yeah, you can sort of tell that like what happened is they got the actor who's playing Anakin and they put that goofy helmet on him, put him in like their little cockpit with the green screen behind it, and they just got him to like fuck around in there for half an hour and say shit. Like,
totally.
I'm like that's fucking cool. Like, can you imagine being that kid and you know they just like shake a bunch of sticks and say, "Whoa."
Say, I'll try spinning. That's a good trick.
Yeah.
If you're sure, George Lucas, you sure that'll work? Okay.
Yeah, and then they just get to like cut all these bits in. Yeah, it actually worked for me. Like having been more familiar with the Anakin that we sort of see in the Clone Wars, this was actually really the part of the movie where I felt Anakin in the character in this film was like him just fucking around in a spaceship and kind of accidentally blowing up the entire space station because he was doing dumb shit. That's actually kind of peak Anakin Skywalker.
Yeah, it's very true.
And I'm going to try spinning. That's a neat trick. Like that is like the only difference between Anakin in that scene and Anakin in the Clone Wars is that he just wouldn't tell anyone that's what he's going to do because he's smug enough by the Clone Wars to just do it.
Yippee!
It is weird that he's here as a 6-year-old. I guess when you're watching the film, you just kind of assume that it all makes sense. And now sitting down to reflect on it really just strikes you of, oh yeah, wait, no, he's like a 7-year-old kid. What the fuck?
Because Qui-Gon was like, I'm going to train this kid whether you want me to or not. And so he just starts like bringing this kid who hasn't done any preliminary training or anything, just brings him onto the battlefield.
Anakin something like, I wasn't super concentrating at this point, but when I watched it recently, but I think he says, now I'm not allowed to train you, but you just need to watch me really closely.
That's right. No, you're right. That is his justification. He's like, I'm not allowed to train you, so I'm just going to bring you everywhere and tell you to watch me, but also don't get in danger.
Don't watch me while I fight Darth Maul, though.
Don't copy that bit.
Yeah. Right. The goodies win. Palpatine becomes the Chancellor, Obi becomes a Jedi, and he's allowed to take Anakin as his Padawan. The end, I guess.
Yay.
Whew. I mean, there's a scene here that is like blatantly a reference to how the first film ends, where they have like the awards ceremony and they got the cool glowy orb.
And the cheesy music.
Yeah. I don't know. This was, as I realized the movie was ending, and I felt that sweet relief.
It's hard to tell. Pacing so crazy. Like, is this the end?
Yeah, this was the point where I sort of realized the movie was ending, and I was like, this was really made to be part of a trilogy. Like, this movie does not stand on its own in terms of like plot or character or anything. Like, it's just a bunch of random shit events, and this is, I feel like, based on very old memories of the other two movies, this is a trilogy that is just entirely about you seeing a young boy turn into Darth Vader. And they just kind of do the here's a nice young boy part in this film, and there's just a bunch of junk tacked on to kind of
to make it a film,
to try and make it interesting, and it didn't really work. They put the Anakin part in the middle and put other stuff around it, and so it's just like, this movie just finished, and I was like, good thing they were already greenlit for episodes 2 and 3, because this film, if it had existed on its own, it would have just been like, what was this about?
It's kind of true because I guess, if your narrative structure is that you have orientation, complication, series of events, and conclusion, it's like this whole movie is just the orientation. You just meet Anakin and you meet like 3PO and R2 and all that. And there's not really, it's not until you get to Attack of the Clones that stuff really actually starts happening, I suppose.
Yeah, but then, so that's where, I feel like things like Qui-Gon and Naboo as story elements are meant to come in and fill that in. So you're meant to feel like there's a story there, and then Anakin's will move in. But the fact that we just kind of block those out for the middle 45 minutes of the film and just do Anakin all in one lot then means that you don't really care about Naboo by the time it's finishing anymore because you've forgotten about it. And it all falls a bit flat. You either needed to do one or the other, I think, or integrate them better. The only way they're integrated is when Anakin does his whoopsie and blows up the space station.
What a film. Yeah, it really, I agree with everything you two have said. It just feels like it doesn't quite hold together as a film.
The good news is I would say that the films get better as you go through. I think this is probably the weakest of the prequel films. I think Attack of the Clones has the romance bits, which are really
don't
bad.
spoil it. Let's let Reuben experience the films.
Oh,
yeah,
gosh.
that's true. But I'll give you some hope. I feel like it goes on the whole up from here.
All right. Well, I guess that's something.
Yeah, I mean, what would be your verdict on this film, Reuben?
Look, honestly, I didn't hate it as much as I thought I would. Mainly, it was boring, but there were some Liam Neeson, very charismatic, as was Natalie Portman as Padme, right? And so those two as characters were engaging enough that you start to switch off after 5 minutes of Trade Federation talk, but they can kind of pull you back into the main bits and make sure that you're never too bored. I don't know. I definitely wouldn't recommend the film, but I was able to get through it without feeling too punished.
Something I'd like to ask you, as somebody who hasn't seen it before, what do you think of Anakin in this film? Like, how did you find it? Like, we've talked about how Jar Jar's really annoying and how he really likes Liam Neeson. What did you think of that kid?
He definitely wasn't a convincing child. Like, he wasn't. I didn't feel like, oh, this is actually a child. I felt like, oh, this is a 30-year-old Jedi Master trapped in a 7-year-old's body. But he was fine. Like, he didn't get on my nerves or anything. He was just kind of a kid.
Yeah, because that kid got like a lot of shit, basically. Like
really.
People hated the kid as much as they hated Jar Jar.
No, the kid was not the worst part of this movie.
And even then, when we were watching, we're like, the kid's not that bad. It's the lines he's been given to read.
Oh, yeah.
The real trash. The kid's actually not bad.
He's fine.
Yeah. I don't remember his name, but he's depressed now. He's
the actor getting shit for that, that reeks me of some of the shit that went down with The Last of Us 2 recently, where it's people blaming writing decisions they don't like on the actors for some reason.
Or just to keep with the Star Wars community, the reaction to
Rose.
I mean, I didn't see any of the most recent movies, but yeah, the reaction that some of the characters like Finn and the one whose name I don't remember, but the actress's name is something Tran, Kelly Marie Tran.
The character is Rose, right?
Yeah. And I watched the movie, she was fine, and then people hated her. It was like, why? I think people are just racist and sexist, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, that's definitely part of it in some cases, but I agree. Like, I didn't think, the kid wasn't going to win an Oscar, but also it was a kid,
yeah, totally.
I thought the kid did fine. The parts where I thought, oh, that's a bit weird, it was usually what he was saying, not how he was saying it. I'll spin, that's a cool trick, just a weird thing to do.
I genuinely did think Liam Neeson and Natalie Portman were both very engaging in their roles, so they pretty much carried me through it.
Yeah, definitely.
How old would Natalie Portman have been? Because she
was 18.
Yeah.
Okay.
I looked it up because I was surprised at how young she looked.
Yeah, because she's playing a teenager. So.
I think Padme's supposed to be 14. I think Anakin is actually supposed to be 8, but I don't know where I'm pulling that from, whether that's definitely the case. I'm not a very good expert.
Yeah, it's all right.
Because definitely knowing that they're going to be married by the time the TV show was set, the age gap was a little bit weird in this movie, because obviously one of them had gone through puberty and the other hadn't. But I suppose by the time they're adults, if one's 8 and one's 14, that wouldn't be too huge an age gap. It's a bit weird that they've known each other since he was 8, but yeah.
But he clearly doesn't act like an 8-year-old a lot of the time, right? So I guess I should point out that at the very bottom of the notes that we have here, in all caps, bolded, is a word that I have no idea what it means, yodel. And I asked about it before we started the show, and you guys said, no, don't look it up. We'll figure it out later. So what is it?
So, yeah, go Google yaddle now. Julia, I'll let you explain this.
Oh, yaddle. Sorry. Okay.
When we were watching it, we were talking at the end, and we were talking about the Mandalorian and stuff as well. And I started talking about this Reddit thread that I'd seen and how all of the people from the sort of Yoda species had names that started with Y. And I mentioned Yaddle, and Elliot and Hannah go like, "Oh, who's Yaddle?" I was like, "Oh, Yaddle's another Jedi Master. It's like a female version of like Yoda's species."
Oh.
And they go, "Oh, what? No, I've never heard of that." I started showing them pictures. They did not believe that Yaddle was real. They said, "No,
It looks like something out of the Dark Crystal. I'll be honest.
Yeah,
It doesn't quite look like it comes from Star Wars.
Yeah, I mean, we looked it up. It's a Yoda puppet that failed. Like when they were getting ready to make the movie, they tried making this Yoda puppet. It didn't work out, so they stuck an absurd wig on it.
It's got some real hair.
Yeah, like it's got just this.
Wikipedia says hair color auburn.
Yeah.
So good.
It's just like because it's just such human hair. Like that's the thing. Like
I would not have expected.
Like I was just cracking up because it's so uncanny valley that it's like this like sort of failed version of Yoda just with like a human wig on top.
Somebody in the like department who was in charge of that was having the best time going through wigs and sticking on this failed Yoda puppet, being like, "We're gonna put this in the fucking movie."
Yeah, so that was in this movie, Reuben. Yaddle only appears.
Wait,
in this
what?
Movie.
Yes,
Yaddle was in this movie.
said, like,
Where?
Yes, Yaddle's on the council. She was in the movie, and Elliot had her like, no, like I would have 100% said we went back.
Fuck.
We went back to the scene where they're testing Anakin. She's sitting there the whole time.
That can't be true. Did my
And
brain just
Google
black
images.
this out?
They did sit there like, "George, this isn't real. Somebody's photoshopped the wig on." And I'm like, "No, Yaddle's in the movie."
Oh my god!
Well, because I was
really...
almost willing to believe it until you said her only appearance is in episode 1. I was like, no bullshit. I just watched that film. She's not in it.
Wowza! I cannot believe that this is true. See, I thought Yoda was just like his species were just bald, but now I'm looking at it and he actually does have hair. I'm realizing now for the first
Even
time.
the child has like little wispy little hairs on his little head.
Yeah.
Oh my god. They're hideous.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, there she is, right there. It doesn't look like it's from the same series as Yoda. It looks like
it does look fan made. It looks very fan made.
It looks like you know how there'll sometimes be like TV shows will do like, oh, we're going to do it, but in the style of this other show,
Yeah.
It looks like a different like puppet studio's take on what a Yoda would look like.
Yeah, it looks like if SNL was doing like a Yoda.
Yes,
bit.
exactly.
I
Exactly
just looked it
right.
up again. It's so stupid. There's this one
also-
picture where they're holding a lightsaber that's hysterical.
I feel like the reason it looks so uncanny valley is because the Yoda race's head shape is so different. So like the hairline is because there's no hair on the side. Oh no, there is a bit actually, and of course it's
She's got like a big like Elvis quiff.
yeah.
It's so good.
It's just so clearly like a wig put on a puppet. Like it just looks silly.
I like that people have done fan art of Yaddle where they desperately try and make her look cool, and it just does not work. Good times. All right. Well, that's that, I guess.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to talk about for this movie?
Oh, Georgia actually shared another cool fact as we were watching this that I thought was hilarious. So Ewan McGregor, the guy who plays Obi-Wan, he made lightsabers. What was the thing?
Yeah, so he apparently a big Star Wars fan. And again, this is like a fan myth. I've got no clue how true. No, it's not actually. He said this story on the Graham Norton show, I think, one time, that apparently when they're doing the lightsaber battles for a lot of these prequel movies, because he played, fake lightsaber battles so much as a kid, every time they're doing it, he just reflexively be like, zoom, 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 zoom. He's like, I
he's
think the
adorable.
sound editors must have hated me because I think they had to just like edit out all of my lightsaber noises to put the real ones in. Yeah, look it up on YouTube. It's really cute.
That's adorable. Absolutely adorable. Well, pretty good movie. I'm excited for the next two if they get even better than this perfect film.
Actually, maybe a more accurate description of Attack of the Clones is that 50% of it is this quality and 50% of it is the quality of Revenge of the Sith. That's probably more accurate.
Interesting.
All right. Well,
I barely remember episode 2, so I'm almost going to be on Ruben's playing field for this next one.
It's probably the one I've watched the least as well, actually.
and so remind me, where does Clone Wars? Is Clone Wars between 2 and 3?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'm kind of mentally slotting it in now.
I was actually about to ask that as well. Yeah. Okay.
Anakin's still a little tiny baby boy in this one.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Well, I guess we're doing this each month, right? So we'll be back next month to talk about episode 2, Attack of the Clones.
Yeah.
See you then.
Did I not copy the outro stuff? We'll have to edit around this.
Yeah. Should I stop recording or?
Should we do a little outro?
Yeah, you were so busy writing Yaddle.
What is the outro? Is there a script for it?
No,
Or are we
there's
going to
nothing.
freestyle?
I'm saying I didn't write one.
All right. Well, what should we? I guess just like plug the Patreon and stuff.
Well, we don't need to. I mean, this is only for $10 above patrons.
Oh yeah. So we don't need to do an outro. We can just end it there.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I guess stop recording.
All right.
I'll figure out a good stopping point.